Welcome to the Pulse of Practice, Balancing Care and Commerce, the podcast where we explore the real challenges clinic teams face every day and the practical tools and workflows that solve them. And today, we have a really specific mission for this deep dive.
We do, yeah.
We are looking closely at the training, the rollout, and what the first 30 days of an AI documentation copilot really look like in practice.
Right. What it actually looks like on the ground.
Exactly. Because if you run a physio, chiro, or multidisciplinary clinic, you already know the administrative crunch is it's one of the hardest things to manage.
Oh, absolutely.
So today, we want to look at how this technology is actually solving it.
And the stakes here are incredibly high. For this deep dive, we're looking at a massive stack of recent research data from the National Academy of Medicine, JAMA, Canada Health InfoWay, and AMIA.
That is a lot of heavy-hitting data.
It really is. And what this research shows, unequivocally, is the heavy toll of clinical documentation. But, crucially, it also gives us a promising and, frankly, realistic path toward AI adoption.
Right. This isn't just theory anymore, The data on how this plays out in real busy clinics is finally here.
Which is so exciting. But before we talk about the solution, I think we need to clearly define the problem. Why would a clinic even consider taking on the effort of rolling out an AI copilot right now?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Picture this. A clinician has just finished a long, grueling day of treating patients. They've been on their feet doing highly physical, highly cognitive work, right?
Mm-hmm. Manual therapy, adjustments, active rehab.
Exactly. And then the clinic doors lock, the last patient goes home, and instead of grabbing their coat, that clinician sits down to face hours of charting. It's the dreaded paperwork second shift.
It's exhausting just thinking about it. And, the data from the National Academy of Medicine actually gives this phenomenon a specific name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they call it the 1.2 FTE problem. So a clinician is technically employed to work 1.0 full-time equivalent, right?
But because of this invisible second shift of administrative work, the charting, the intake forms, the progress notes, they're effectively working 1.2 FTEs.
Wow.
It's an entire extra fifth of a job just piled on top of their actual clinical duties.
Wait, let me stop you there because I want to make sure I'm wrapping my head around that math. Are we saying that for every 5 days a clinician works, they are essentially doing a sixth day entirely in the dark, just typing?
That is the grim reality of it, yeah. The American Medical Association released data showing that 20.9% of providers spend over 8 hours a week on their electronic health records outside of normal work hours.
8 hours.
8 hours. That is a full extra workday every single week spent in what they refer to as pajama time.
Ugh, pajama time.
Right. It's just an unsustainable pace.
Okay, let's unpack this. The data often points to primary care, but if you run a physio or chiro clinic, your clinicians face this exact same burnout. It's like running a marathon, only to find out you have to do a 10K data entry sprint at the finish line.
That analogy that hits the nail on the head.
It is exhausting, and honestly, it is a massive driver of turnover in allied health.
It absolutely is, and this is exactly the burden that tools like Clinicmaster's AI charting and Scribe are designed to tackle.
Right.
But to understand how it tackles it, we have to look at the technology driving it. So this system runs on Azure OpenAI and Google Gemini.
Okay.
The overarching goal here isn't simply to generate text. The goal is to give clinicians their evenings back by leveraging the distinct strengths of both of those highly advanced models.
Wait, I need an ELI 5 on that. Explain. I'm 5. Why use 2 different AI models? Why Azure OpenAI and Google Gemini? Doesn't that just complicate things?
It's a totally fair question.
Yeah.
Think of it like having 2 different specialists in a clinic.
Okay.
Azure OpenAI is incredibly powerful for deep, complex natural language.
Understanding.
It's like the clinician carefully analyzing the nuance of a patient's story.
Right, getting all the context.
Exactly. And Google Gemini, on the other hand, is phenomenally fast and excels at multimodal processing and structuring data quickly. So by combining them, Clinicmaster's AI charting and Scribe gets the deep clinical reasoning of one and the rapid, precise formatting capabilities of the other. It ensures the system is both highly accurate and fast enough to keep up with a real-world clinic pace.
So it's the human element basically getting your life back paired with some seriously heavy-hitting tech.
Precisely.
But let's move from the problem to the evidence, right? What actually happens when a clinic implements an AI scribe? Let's talk about the reality of those first 30 days.
Yeah, and this is where we need to look at the multi-site study published in JAMA. This was led by Mass General Brigham and UCLA.
Okay, what did they find?
They tracked clinicians using ambient AI scribes and found that early adoption yields modest but very real reductions in documentation time.
Define modest.
On average, we're looking at about 16 minutes saved on documentation per day, which is roughly a 10% reduction, and about 41 seconds saved per individual note. Additionally, Canada Health Infoway evaluated a national AI Scribe program and found that same-day note completion jumped significantly, going from 55.9% to nearly 75%.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If the AI is writing the notes, why isn't the time saved immediately massive on day one? Why only 16 minutes at first? I think a lot of clinic owners expect to just press a button on a Monday morning and magically gain 2 hours back by Tuesday.
Yeah, that's a common misconception. And the data from KLAS Research and Chartis provides the answer to that. Adoption is a curve.
A learning curve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The first 30 days are a learning curve for the clinician, not just a technical implementation. The Mass General Brigham study highlighted that results scale with real usage.
Meaning
Clinicians who used the AI for more than 50% of their visits saw double the reduction in total EHR time and triple the reduction in documentation time compared to casual users.
But hold on, let me challenge the premise of this learning curve for a second. If I have to spend my time aggressively proofreading an AI to make sure it didn't miss a key clinical detail, aren't I just trading the physical fatigue of typing for the mental fatigue of editing? Is that actually better workflow for an exhausted practitioner?
Well, in the first week, it can certainly feel that way. That is the shift from typist to editor that the research talks about.
Right.
When you type every word from scratch, your brain is engaged in a rote mechanical workflow. When the AI generates a draft, you are suddenly doing high-level peer review.
Oh, that makes sense.
Think of it like a junior resident pitching a treatment plan to an attending physician. In the beginning, the attending micromanages the resident, double-checking every single detail. It takes mental energy.
But then they build trust.
Exactly. As the resident proves they are competent, the attending relaxes. The same thing happens with the AI. After a few weeks, the clinician builds trust in the output, the cognitive load drops dramatically, and the speed of approval skyrockets.
Trust. That is the operational bottleneck, isn't it?
100%.
If the results depend entirely on getting clinicians past that initial micromanagement phase, how do clinic operators actually train a mixed team without bringing their daily schedule to a grinding halt?
Well, trust is everything. We see this highlighted in the reporting from MedCity News and the best practices laid out by AMI. If a clinician experiences an AI hallucination, say the AI confidently invents a symptom the patient didn't have, or hallucinates a treatment protocol that wasn't performed, that clinician will instantly abandon the tool.
Yeah, I would too.
Right. If the data is bad, the tool isn't a time saver. It's a massive liability.
So what does this all mean for clinic owners? How do you give your team a tool that they can actually rely on without that constant underlying fear that the AI is going to make something up?
It really comes down to the strict governance and guardrails built into the software architecture itself.
And this is how Clinicmaster handles it to build that essential trust, right? They use a very strict anti-hallucination prompt combined with low creativity settings because you don't want your clinical documentation AI to be creative. You want it to be brutally factual.
Exactly. Facts only.
Furthermore, it features a strict draft, review, sign flow. Nothing autosaves directly to the final patient record.
Which is crucial.
Yeah, the AI creates a draft, the clinician must review it, and then the clinician signs off. So the clinician always stays the author.
And that human-in-the-loop design is what prevents clinical errors. But we also have to look at the mechanism of how the AI understands the context in the first place, which is through retrieval and multi-turn memory.
I'm going to need another ELI 5 for retrieval and multi-turn memory. What does that actually look like in a treatment room?
Sure. So imagine a patient is giving a very convoluted history. They start by talking about their shoulder pain, then they go on a 5-minute tangent about their dog, and then they mention, oh yeah, my shoulder only hurts when I reach up to the top shelf.
Classic patient story.
Right. A basic dictation tool just blindly types all of that out, dog included. But an AI with multi-turn memory acts like an incredibly attentive human assistant. It remembers the shoulder pain from 20 minutes ago, filters out the story about the dog, and correctly links the top shelf comment back to the initial shoulder complaint.
Wow, that's smart.
Yeah, it retrieves the context of the whole session and even previous sessions from the patient's chart So it isn't treating every new sentence as a brand new thought.
That makes total sense. It weaves the narrative together rather than just transcribing the noise.
Precisely.
So when it comes to getting the staff on board to actually use this, here's what we've seen work incredibly well, backed by the AMA and KLAS recommendations. You don't just mandate a clinic-wide rollout on a Monday morning. You start with peer champions.
The super users.
Right, the super users. You introduce the technology to a small, willing group first. Let them master the features. Let them get used to the real-time streaming drafts where they can actually watch the note form as they go.
Yeah, that visual feedback is great.
It is. And let them figure out their own workflows, like when they prefer to dictate and when they prefer to just type a few shorthand notes for the AI to expand. Once the small group gets past that 30-day learning curve and starts leaving work at 5:00 p.m. instead of 7:00 p.m., they become the natural mentors. Their lived experience is going to be infinitely more convincing to a skeptical practitioner than any training manual you could print out.
Oh, absolutely. Peer-to-peer validation is the strongest adoption tool a clinic has.
For sure.
Now, if we follow this logic forward, once that trust is established and clinicians are comfortable letting the AI handle their standard session notes, the impact begins to ripple outward. The conversation shifts from just surviving the paperwork to actively optimizing the entire clinic ecosystem.
This is where the workflow possibilities blow wide open, because Clinicmaster's AI, charting, and Scribe handles so much more than just a standard SO8 note.
Oh, yeah.
Once the clinician trusts the quote-unquote junior resident, they can start handing off the really tedious paperwork. The AI drafts 9 different document types.
9 distinct types of documentation.
9. It handles interactive chat, session notes, case summaries, plans of care, letters addressed to a physician, adjuster, case manager, or specialist, PDF forms, web forms, email, and SMS.
I want to pause on that for a second because populating PDF forms and web forms is a massive leap forward from just writing a text summary.
Huge.
But how does that actually work mechanically? How does an AI take a messy, unstructured conversation about knee pain and perfectly fill out a rigid insurance PDF?
It all comes down to how the AI maps natural language to specific data fields.
Oof.
Let's say a patient says, my knee is killing me. It's like an 8 out of 10 pain when I try to walk up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
The AI understands the clinical value of that statement. It maps 8 out of 10 to the severity field, it maps knee to the location field, and it maps walking upstairs to the functional limitation field on the PDF form or web form.
That's incredible.
It does the data translation for you, fitting the narrative perfectly into the required boxes.
That is a phenomenal reduction in cognitive load. And for your front desk and clinical leads, this means an absolute paradigm shift in daily operations.
How so?
Well, the system includes features like per practitioner creativity tuning, so the AI adapts to how different practitioners prefer their notes to sound.
Nice.
But the real operational magic happens with the peer review and signature workflows, combined with those PDF exports. It drastically reduces the administrative bottlenecks that usually choke a clinic's cash flow.
I see the logic, however. How much does that really impact the front desk? Aren't they usually separated from the clinical charting process anyway?
Physically, maybe, but operationally, they are deeply entangled.
True.
Think about how much time a front desk admin spends chasing down providers for incomplete paperwork. Like, we can't bill this session until you sign the plan of care. Or the adjuster is waiting on that progress summary before they approve the next block of treatments.
Oh, I've heard those exact conversations.
Right. When the AI is generating these drafts instantly and populating those PDF forms automatically, the provider just reviews and signs the document before the patient even puts their code on.
No.
The paperwork bottleneck completely disappears. This allows the front desk to shift their focus away from being paperwork chasers. They can return to focusing entirely on the patient experience, managing flow, handling complex inquiries, and building relationships.
It changes the entire energy of the clinic when the admin team isn't stressed about missing documentation, holding up billing. It's really about creating a workflow where the technology does the heavy lifting and the humans get to do the human parts.
Exactly. Which brings us to a really fascinating realization about the ultimate purpose of this technology.
Yeah.
We've spent a lot of time today talking about the 1.2-foot TE problem, the 30-day adoption curve, and the guardrails needed to build trust. But the goal of AI in allied health isn't to replace the clinician's brain. It's to remove the physical screen between the provider and the patient. It's about taking away that barrier that keyboard, and restoring the human connection that brought these clinicians to the healing professions in the first place.
That's so powerful.
When you aren't staring at a monitor trying to remember what to type, you can actually look your patient in the eye.
Getting back to the core of care. But, it does leave you with a really provocative question to think about for the future.
What's that?
If this AI copilot successfully gives allied health professionals an hour or two back every single day, what happens to that time?
Right.
Does that extra hour automatically go towards squeezing more patients into the schedule to maximize revenue? Or does it finally go toward preventing clinician burnout, allowing them to rest, and keeping great providers in the industry longer?
It's the million-dollar question.
The clinic operators who figure out how to balance that newfound time are going to be the ones who build the most successful practices in the next decade.
That is a pivotal challenge for clinic leadership moving forward. Efficiency is really only as good as what you choose to do with it.
Absolutely. So if you are listening to this and wondering how to actually make this rollout happen in your clinic this week, here's a practical, actionable plan based on all this data.
Let's hear it.
First, start with a small group of willing clinicians. Find your super users who are actually excited about tech. Second, protect a little time for their first week. Lighten their schedule by 1 or 2 slots so they have the breathing room to transition from typist to editor without stress.
That's crucial.
Third, set the review and sign habit early. Make it a hard rule that the draft is reviewed and signed before the next patient comes in.
Yes, don't let it pile up.
Exactly. And finally, schedule a check-in at day 30. Look at the progress, celebrate the time saved, and use their success story to roll it out to the rest of the clinic.
It is a measured, highly realistic approach. It respects the fact that learning a new workflow takes a few weeks, but it guarantees that the payoff on the other side is immense.
And if you want a step-by-step guide to doing this, we warmly invite you to download the rollout checklist and to book a demo at clinicmaster.com. You don't have to figure out this adoption curve on your own, The tools and the blueprints are already there.
Leaving the clinic at the end of the day shouldn't mean taking the clinic's paperwork home with you. It's time to end the second shift.
Thanks for listening to The Pulse of Practice, Balancing Care and Commerce. See you next time.